You are listening to the Willpower Podcast. Welcome to the show. I am Will Holdren, and I talk with some of the most influential CEOs, entrepreneurial leaders, and thought leaders to try and reveal the secrets that has led to their success. I believe that with the right knowledge and mindset, you can do anything you set your mind to. So if you want to learn how to change your life for the better, if you want to learn how millionaires actually became wealthy, or if you want to develop and start your own business from the ground up with the right knowledge to help you, then you are in the right place because this is the Willpower Podcast.
Nowhere that we go is a one-way street. Nothing that we love is a one-day key. And if we gon' do it, we gon' do this now. And if we say we gon' hold this down. Nowhere that we...
How's it going, everyone? My name is Will Holdren, and I'm the host of the Willpower Podcast. Today, we have a very special guest, and her name is Lauren Vargas. And Lauren is actually an EXP agent and an investor from Texas. So it's an absolute honor to have her on here today. So Lauren, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me, Will. It's great to be here. Greetings from Houston. Hope you are well. Again, thanks for this opportunity.
Of course. I'm also super jealous that you're in Houston. I'm in Pennsylvania, so it's cold up here all the time. So I'm very jealous of that. Yeah, I'm excited for this conversation. Love talking to agents and investors and kind of seeing how they got to where they are today. So kind of just to kickstart this conversation, just tell everyone a little bit about yourself and how did you get started in real estate to begin with?
Yeah, so I'm fairly new to real estate. For my past 14 years, I was a school teacher and an administrator. And I absolutely love the field. I love what I do. I have nothing bad to say about the teaching of the children and supporting staff, supporting families. I absolutely love it. But unfortunately, I had a moment where when we were doing virtual schooling, my son, who is 8 years old, was doing virtual schooling as well. And of course, I'm trying to be a principal virtually, which is a whole nother set of challenges. And I just remember a day that, he came to me and he needed help with his own virtual classroom. He had his tablet. Again, he's 8 years old. And I had about 30 seconds until I was on like my seventh or eighth Zoom meeting of the day. And it was, a high stakes presentation to staff. And so I told him, anxiously, I said, you're going to have to go to your room and you're going to have to figure it out, and do the best you can, And I just vividly remember thinking like, something's got to give. I just did not have that time for him. And so I, made the decision after stepping away for a bit, not to return despite having some really awesome offers. And I moved into real estate because my mom, I guess mom always knows best. She told me for years that I'd be really successful in real estate. I'm a big time connector. I love connecting with people. And then I'm just all things, domestic. So I love homemaking. I love home design. I love DIY. So she knew it was right up my alley. I didn't quite know that. But I went ahead and jumped off, went into real estate school, thinking I was going to go into being an agent, and just started hearing stories like other people. A lot of other people, they go to real estate school and they start hearing other investors share stories, and they look at other investors and they say, if they can do it, why can't I? And so I got the interest there and just went right into establishing my own business in home buying. After working on a few deals, I realized that I really needed to be the person I could depend on for running comps, CMAs, market knowledge, and just having access to that data on the MLS as well. And so instead of depending on someone else, I decided to go active, and it served me really well. And so I'm doing both. And I'm happy to say, above all, that I'm a much more present parent now, and I'm really happy for that.
Yeah, and that is honestly the beauty of entrepreneurship, the kind of time frame you can kind of get from that. And you hit it right on the head that time. You said it's definitely a people business, and so it always fascinates me. Most of the people I interview, they always come from like education backgrounds or bartenders or something like that. So it's cool to kind of see you fill into that role as well. So you mentioned that you were a principal for 14 years, and then you quit, and then because of COVID and stuff, then you got a real estate license. And so were you going 50-50 when you had a real estate license, or did you jump cold turkey into real estate?
So I was doing administration, and then when I jumped off, I went right into establishing my home buying business, because in my head, I just wanted to be a flipper. I
Gotcha.
was like, I just want to be flipping a home, like that'll be perfect for me, right up my alley. And then I just sort of got more into understanding, how to monetize different deals. And the importance of that in this market, being that deals are, hard to come by right now. And so, or at least when you're first starting, they don't just fall in your lap. And so I still consult for our public school system here in Houston. And so I have that stream of income.
Gotcha.
I wish I could say to people, just jump off and do it. But I will say it takes time. And I will say that you need to have either another stream of income, or you need to have, some savings, or you need to have somewhere to live. Or, I know here in my household, there's no handouts. We're working to put food on our table. I'm not an investor at this point that's building a portfolio. I'm really doing this to put food on the table. And so it's really important that you have a plan, because I've found that it takes time.
Yeah, and it's definitely scary going straight into something brand new and cutting off your only really paycheck coming in. So
Yes,
it's a scary
especially when it's a
situation.
good one too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%, 100%.
Yeah.
And so you mentioned that you wanted to go into flipping. So first of all, what made you want to do flipping instead of like the Burr strategy or other investment strategies? Why did you want to do flipping?
I think lack of education and knowledge, and so now I'm on the Burr train.
Gotcha.
And
Gotcha.
so my goal is to Burr, so that I can create those streams of income, and have that wealth of time and freedom to invest it how I'd like, with my family and traveling and my yoga and cooking and those things. And so Burr is where I'm going. But of course, when I first started in real estate, I often hear, I work with investors, and I often hear, my dad is this, or my family's these people, or what have you. And I'm not, from that. And so I didn't have any guidance. And so it was a lot of just being self-taught, and then starting to really just be blessed with meeting certain investors who are willing to share their knowledge, and really help me to kind of see the ropes and learn the ropes. And so I love working with investors who are generous in that way, especially to those of us who don't come from that privilege. And so it's just been a lot of learning. But yeah, Burr is where I'm headed, and I plan to do flipping for my income bracket.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that you're also self-educated. That's super cool to kind of see people that kind of just dive in and teach themselves along the way what to do and how to do it. And then it works out in the long run for a lot of them. So
It's awesome. It's such a great advantage of social media, to be honest. And we know that there's not total advantages there, but certainly learning and self-empowerment, and especially in the way of entrepreneurship, it's incredible what people are learning. And I'm very excited for social media to have that impact.
Yeah. And so on to my next question, like how many deals are you currently working on, or have you done this year? And kind of what have you learned along the way since your first flip to now you're burning properties? What are some of the main things you learned throughout that time?
Yeah, so right now, I haven't officially done my own flip. What I'm doing is wholesaling. And so I chose that path to build capital, because, when you go into a flip, you're going to have a certain amount of assets or liquid assets to play with. And so I'm building up to that. But even when I kind of crossed the plane of being able to possibly do a flip, I'm really looking at wholesaling as an opportunity to learn exactly how to get deals. If you don't know how to find deals, you don't know how to analyze deals, you don't know how to keep deals on track, you've got to put some more time into learning. And so wholesaling for me has been such an incredible opportunity to not only access more experienced investors, but to learn those lessons. And I've learned a lot. I would say don't underestimate the importance of marketing. If you're really well connected, then deals might fall in your lap, and that's great. But it takes time to get connected. So I would say it's two buckets. It's your connections and marketing. And certainly that doesn't encompass everything. But if I had to go back, I would probably focus most of my energy and money on those two things. Gotcha. The connections are incredibly important because investors work in conjunction with other people looking to make money. And so, you're generally looking to see, who can provide those motivated sellers and those leads that you really need to get the deals you need in order to profit. And so while you build that up, you should be doing a lot of marketing because you have to get your name out there. I mean, I've planted, there were times where I thought I had planted so many seeds and I thought, this has got it. Something's got to come of this. But you really have to plant a lot more seeds than you even think. And even as, creative and sort of, put together as I am in my communication on paper or what I'm trying to do, in video or what have you, you don't have like the industry knowledge of how marketing works really, and so if you can invest anything, I would say invest in some consulting, somebody that can give you some guidance and really be a help, a support, a resource, because it's a lot to keep up with all at once. Right. You've got your website, you've got social media, you've got direct mail, you've got paid ads. Unless this is something you've done or it's just your jam and you know about it, I would say you'll need some help. I certainly can't wait to close my next deal because I am going to reinvest in marketing. So those are the things I've learned so far, among many other lessons.
Those are all really great points. And one thing that I kind of want to touch on is like a lot of people want to go into real estate industry think it's going to be easy selling a house as an agent. But once again, you got to find a way to get those deals and find people. Mm-hmm. And then other people are like, oh, I want to become an investor. It's going to be easy, just flip houses and stuff. But once again, you got to find those deals. And in today's market, first of all, it's extremely difficult to find deals. It's such a seller's market because of low inventory. And then for you personally, you're in a really great state, Texas, because a lot of people are going there. So you kind of got like a double whammy going on that one. So I'm kind of curious, like, what are you doing to find deals and how should new agents or new investors kind of be looking to find new deals?
Sure. So it's really all about, if you start taking any courses, they're going to start to tell you, look for the motivated sellers. And there's nothing more true. Right. You can spend time all day long trying to buy houses, but unless the people are in a certain situation, which is motivating them to sell, you likely won't get the house at the price that you need to get it at in order to profit. And so doing propensity-based list marketing is very important. I personally am working a lot with pre-foreclosures. So I pay for a pre-foreclosure listing service each month. I take that information and then I really work on it. I work on multiple strands of communication because reaching people is really hard when they're in a situation that they feel vulnerable, and there might be, some shame involved, and those two emotions, are hard for them. And so I would say really targeting the right sellers is very important. So pre-foreclosures, if you can, market with a divorce attorney and get some referrals that way, really people in situations, that's what you're trying to market to in order to get the kind of deal you need to profit.
Yeah. And pre-foreclosure list is a really great way, just like you're talking about. And so I'm assuming you just cold call all those people, correct, on those lists for the most part?
So I do 3 pieces of direct mail, and I do ongoing cold calling. I do ongoing social media contact, and I do at least 2 door knocks. And so it's quite a big campaign within the 1 month that you have. And especially until you have, some help, an assistant, or, even if you're getting into, getting an acquisition specialist or something like that, just be ready. It's an incredible amount of work.
Yeah.
It is a lot of work, and I'm drinking a lot of coffee, and I'm really paying attention to my physical and mental and spiritual health, because if you don't, take care of yourself, you will run out of gas. It is a lot of work.
100%. Yeah, you can't just be running on caffeine all the time.
No.
Yeah, totally get that. And so that's a pretty cool way of how you can separate yourself from like other investors, because obviously you go the extra mile, just because it's a lot of work in that month to try to get those deals coming in. And so that kind of leads me into my next question. Like, what are some ways that you kind of separate yourselves from other investors? And if I am a new investor coming into like the industry, what can I do to separate myself from other investors that are kind of more experienced?
Yeah, so I think what sets me apart, I mean, you really hit the nail on the head when you alluded to it earlier about educators being really awesome investors, really awesome real estate agents. And I think partially it's because we're used to just like working with our hair on fire. But I also think that educators are very nurturing in their nature. And so I really create I create these close connections and relationships with the sellers that I'm working with. And I know they're going through an incredibly hard time. I've actually been that direction myself, struggling in the past to make mortgage. And so I keep that, in mind as I work with people, and I try to be incredibly nurturing. And it's not out of a place of just wanting to generate profit. It's out of a place of genuine care for people. And I, in all things, try to do right by people. And, I think that it's just really important. You have to be in it for the right reasons, because you're going to be shepherding somebody through one of the most emotional and difficult experiences that they've faced in their life. And it's an emotional experience. I've compared it to going through almost like a mental health crisis in some ways with somebody, depending on who you're working with. I'm not saying all are in that boat with foreclosure or what have you, but generally it's an emotional experience. And so having that nurturing and sort of problem solving approach, I think, is what sets me apart. And I think any educator has a pretty strong chance of success, because that's what we do day in and day out.
100%. My mom is also an educator, so I totally get where you're coming at from that.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
so you know exactly what I'm talking about.
I know exactly what you're talking
Yes.
about. Hairs on fire, all those things at once.
Yeah, a quick plug. We need to pay teachers more comparable to what they're worth in comparison to other professions. And number two, we need to protect their planning time much better than we do now.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think there's gonna be a shortage of teachers coming up pretty soon, so maybe that'll change the payroll, but we'll see. But
I hope they're going to have to stop the bleed at this point. So it's time for the government to step up and make something happen and stop talking about it.
Yeah,
but that's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah, I've seen that side of it. And kind of getting back on the investor side of things. So you mentioned it that you got to be nurturing and you got to enter situations the right way and just realize that these people are going through tough times, especially people that are dealing with foreclosures. And you got to realize that. And that's one of the ways you can separate yourselves from other investors out there. So kind of going through like your whole process, like you're going to find a property you want to burn, like what are some of your technologies that you have or your must use apps that kind of help you go through this whole process that maybe new investors wouldn't know of?
Yeah, so for me, I have the advantage that I am a realtor, and so I have access to my local MLS. It's where I spend my days and nights just making sure I'm analyzing deals in the correct way. And so whether you are using the MLS or you're using some other investor tool that allows you to run your comps for sold properties, that's incredibly important. You have to be able to size up what a home is worth quickly. And so MLS or some other tool that allows you to access those sold properties and comps. So that's one. I would say another tool that's incredibly important to me, again, is just that pre-foreclosure list. And I use my own app on that. I'm using that quite a bit because that's where, the leads are coming from for that bucket of sellers. And I'm getting more into PropStream, which is it's a propensity. You're familiar with PropStream?
I've never heard of it. No.
Yeah. So I'm not super well versed, but I have gotten started and I'm liking it. Again, it's just that propensity based marketing. I'm finding, again, if you don't get the theme, that marketing is so important, and it's such a big weight. And so I am looking for tools in that regard.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, I've never heard of PropStream, but I'll have to take a look into that because it seems interesting. But those are all some pretty good assets. Like you said, you have a head start just being an agent because you have access to that MLS. So that makes life easier once you can run those comps.
Yeah, it's not, you know, I know investors, quite, you know, quite a few of them don't, you know, have their license or whatever. And I think that can totally work. It's just for me, I've found that, you know, having that access to that market data has just been incredibly helpful.
Yeah.
And I also want to keep myself open because I come across houses too that, you know, aren't quite, you know, ready for off market, you know, they might be ready for on market activity. And so I want to be able to monetize any deal that I come across.
Yeah, 100%. And that's a big debate too. Like, if should investors also get the real estate license, and if it's going to help them that much in the long run. So obviously, it can go either way. What they think is important. So,
Yeah.
what do you think on that?
Well, it's interesting. I think it is helpful. However, I'm really happy that I went to the investing side first, because I think as a real estate agent, I'll say, you know, there's certain boxes you have to stay in, lots of regulations, and we certainly do that on that side. But off-market activity is just a different world, and it's a different set of activities that aren't necessarily, you know, tightly regulated like that. And so it's interesting to like grow your mindset and invest. For me, it was great to grow my mindset in investing first and kind of learning the ropes of that. And then stepping into agency, because now I love, you know, that, you know, I'm learning so much from EXP, especially. I mean, they have fantastic training opportunities. And I always want to be in compliance, generally just in off or on market. And so it's been great. But I will say that, you know, investing, you know, it takes a certain sense of risk. Like, you have to be comfortable with risk. And so if you're less comfortable with risk, I would certainly get into the agency side, because there's incredible opportunity there. And then maybe branch out the other way as you learn a little more about, you know, risk assessment.
Yeah, it's very like hand in glove. And then also, like, once you start investing and then get your license later, you know the mind of an investor, so it's easier to kind of work with them and understand like what they're looking for in a property. So
yes,
that's a huge plus to that as well.
It is. You have to be investor minded for sure.
Yeah.
On that side of things. So yeah.
And so before we run out of time here, so I have a couple more questions for you. So kind of going forward and kind of looking at your future, what is your kind of exit strategy for the real estate industry?
Yeah. So again, I ultimately want to end up just doing a lot of BRRRRs, but I also want to get really good at flipping. And so I am going, you know, full speed ahead and building capital right now through wholesaling. And of course, you know, what I'm doing with on-market properties. But, you know, for now it's wholesaling, but I do want to get to learning and mastering the flip and moving into BRRRRs. So just accumulating that portfolio, that passive income, that is my biggest goal, because ultimately I am here to serve not only my family, but my community. And there's not a place in my head that I don't think one day, you know, when my son's grown and when I have this, you know, flow of income coming in, that I won't possibly step back into education in some way. I think it's an incredibly important field. And those of us who can do it, you know, I know we all have that desire. It's never the actual teaching of the children or any of that. I mean, we love what we do. So it's just some of the conditions that really need to, you know, change. And so, yeah. So that's
an underappreciated field for sure. So,
absolutely. Yeah. So that, yeah, it really is. It really is. And you know, if we're serious about being a competitive nation in this world marketplace, then we've got to make some progress when it comes to education and results. So yeah. But anyway, that's my other podcast.
Yeah, 100%. We have to run it back for the education side of things.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's what I'm trying to do. Just sort of free up my time, you know, and systemize my business right now. And it's a lot of learning. I come from a place of humility. Like there's so many lessons that, you know, I have yet to learn. And I'm sure, you know, there's going to be a lot of hard moments. I want to say, you know, if you were to ask me like the most important thing, it's very, you know, not original, but a lot of entrepreneurs talk about persistence. And I'm just going to let everybody know that's possibly thinking of going into investing or real estate or any business that persistence really determines your success. I had a man on Sunday come out after I was like on my 14th house of door knocking, and I left my information at his house, and I knew I wasn't going to reach somebody because there was a little Alexa assistant asking me questions and things. So I was like, okay, this isn't going to happen. So I left my information, went and got my car, and like I usually do, take my notes on my clipboard on the outcomes and things. And sure enough, I see somebody coming towards my car, and I'm like, in my little kind of naive world, I'm like, oh, great. I'll get to connect with him. He's probably going to ask me, who I am and et cetera. So I have my rose colored glasses on, but he immediately told me, he said, don't you ever come to my property again. And he, immediately started badgering me as if I knew the impact I was having on him, and I said, I'm sorry for that. I said, I'm not trying to have that impact. I said, I'm really just here to offer an option in case you need it, in your future. And he proceeded to look at my Honda Civic, which I proudly drive right now because until I have more cash flow, I'm not getting into a bigger payment.
Right.
And he said, what do you think you can afford driving a car like that? Do you think you can afford my house and a car like that? And he proceeded to point out the tape that I have on my bumper, and I try to make it look good, but it's some tape on my bumper.
Right.
And he proceeded to just tell me, you're not going to be able to afford a house like this, and he said, don't you ever come here? And I said, okay. I said, just if you don't need my card, just go ahead and throw it away. And he said, I sure will. And he stormed off. So I drove off, and I learned that after you do a door knock, you should get in your car and leave right away because people might be in an escalated, situation. So that's
Right.
something I learned. But I won't lie, I felt pretty defeated, and when you're first starting and investing and you're first starting in your business, you're making literally an investment in yourself. You're not seeing the profit that you need necessarily in the beginning. And so in that moment, I really, it was tough. And I woke up the next day though. And you know what I did? I went back door knocking. And I did that because, again, I have a responsibility for my family, and quitting's not an option. Quitting is not an option. I will take, a second or third job if I have to, but I'm not giving up on my business, And so just beware that, in this business, you're going to get told way more. Sorry, this fell out. You're going to get told way more times no than you will yes. So keep going.
Yeah, it's a pretty inspiring story. It really shows what entrepreneurship is all about. Just like you're talking about, like it's not always easy. It's not always a yes answer, and you got to be able to go through that and remain motivated, which is the hardest part, and still be consistent and go out the next day and still do it. So
that's all about your habits. All about your habits.
Yeah, yep. I love it. So before we run out of time, is there anything else that you would like to say? And if people want to reach out to you, how can they find you?
Yeah, no, I just want to encourage anybody who has that thing in their gut that's telling them you'd be, good in real estate, or you have some sort of interest or passion for it. If you're thinking of going that way, I encourage you to do it. I'm here to tell you, you're never going to be ready. There is so much to learn, and even those that have been doing it a while are still learning every day from what I hear them say. And so you're never really going to be ready. And so just do it. And, the best to everybody out there. It's, obviously an incredibly hard time, the heartbreaking situation that's unfolding with Ukraine. In these uncertain times, it's so important that we stay connected to our intent on how we can not only bring ourselves joy and abundance and happiness in our lives, but to uplift others, And so I'm finding that real estate is really a surprisingly incredible place to be able to use my skills and my passion for helping people. And even though it's not running a school, it's really still contributing. And so those of you who are thinking of it, you should do it. And if you want to find me, my website is hgbuyshouses.com, and I have all my social media there. And I'm really trying to get more active with that. So we'll see what unfolds.
Awesome.
Yes.
Well, I really appreciate your time today. This is some really fun conversation, and you brought up a lot of great points. I'm sure my audience is going to love it. So again, thank you. And
Thank you.
I'm sure people will reach out to you. So, all right, guys, there you have it. Lauren Vargas, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Will.
Nothing that we love is a one-day key. And if we gon' do it, we gon' do this now. And if we say we gonna, we gon' hold this. It's been a fake.